So it's been about a month and a half since I started studying Chinese for the fourth time or something. And so I just wanted to talk about my thoughts today. I haven't really organized this or anything, so I don't know how long it'll be or how much I'll ramble on, but so at the very beginning there was kind of a honeymoon period where it was just super exciting and new and I was like, "Oh, this is so easy. Chinese is so easy." Uh so much commonality with Japanese. Tones are actually easier, way easier than pitch accent, just because the fact that they work syllable for syllable actually massively reduces the complication. Uh, because it's kind of like a case by case thing. Like you go along each syllable. That syllable has a tone. Sometimes it's modified by the tone right before it, but that's it. Whereas Japanese pitch accent, it's like the whole entire rest of the sentence influences it, and there's all these different layers of influence, and it's actually turns out to be way more complicated. But and so and also the grammar's so easy, and there's so much structures that are the same as Japanese, and plus I know kanji, so I just kept thinking like, wow, I have such an amazing advantage over the average American person trying to learn Chinese that it's gonna look awesome when I've been doing this for a year and I'm like as good as normal people who've been doing it for like 4 years or 5 years, or probably more because they don't even know about age yet. And so it was pretty exciting, and I was watching a lot of Dora the Explorer, and it was a little boring, but it was fine. Uh, I would, focus on the words that I could understand. Like, I would understand almost nothing, but then a few words here and there would pop out. I could understand those words. And I noticed every day new words would pop out, and I could actually learn new words from Dora. Like, I remember right at the beginning, I learned the word for ice cream and other random words like that. And there were even a few sentences I could understand, so that was pretty cool. And then after like a few weeks, I kind of entered the opposite of the honeymoon period. I don't know if there's a name for that, but I remembered why I quit Chinese all the other times I quit Chinese in the past. I was like, oh yeah, of course, this is ridiculous. Uh, first of all, I still suck at Japanese and I want to get better at Japanese, but now I have like literally no time for it because I'm doing China. It's like I do my reps and then I can do like a little bit of Japanese, like or read a little bit or watch a little bit at the end of the day. But if I'm gonna learn Chinese, that means like we're massively reducing my time with Japanese, and that was like really overwhelming at first. And I think my brain when you first start, I once heard this metaphor a long time ago. I think it was actually in this book, Eigo wa zettai benkyou suru na, which is the Japanese translation of a Korean book about how to basically age at and uh, to learn how to do all English all the time for Korean people. And he said that when you first start learning a new language, your brain puts like languages are like rooms in your brain, and so you have a room for your native language, and so when you first start learning a foreign language, it puts the language in a drawer within the room, which is your native language. But after you pass a certain point, then it makes a new room for that language and it starts putting it there. But it takes a while before that happens. And I really felt that because I saw that my brain was trying to put Chinese into the room of Japanese in my head. And sometimes when I was listening to Chinese, I could hear my brain like trying to pick out Japanese words and stuff. And even sometimes when listening to Japanese, I'd like almost catch a Chinese word, and it was like I could tell. And my Japanese was suddenly I'd start making weird mistakes and mixing weird stuff up, but I could just see that it was like really just fucking up my brain like by learning Chinese, and it was like throwing a wrench into the system. And I think the first couple times that happened to me, like, and I quit Chinese, and so there's all the yeah, there's aspect of like, and then also it hits you. Sorry, I forgot to say. In addition to you have no time for Japanese. It fucks up my Japanese, and then also you realize like, man, languages are huge. Like I still don't understand shit, and I'm not gonna understand shit for so long. Like the road is so long to get to even basic fluency. It's kind of really overwhelming. And then you realize like, oh, and then I'm gonna have to be balancing this with Japanese and English for the rest of my life. I don't know if I want to do that, and it's like all I had all the same thoughts and emotions as the other times I quit, and I was like, oh yeah, of course I quit Japanese. But now, thanks to having meditated and learning how to go meta on my own mind, I kind of just was able to see all those thoughts and emotions as thoughts and emotions, and just kind of be like, yeah, I know that right now it seems like this is impossible, but if I just keep going, then eventually I'll get past this stage, and then everything will be okay. And so I actually had a pretty easy time just like pushing through all this resistance that I had and all this kind of fear and negative emotion and frustration. I kind of just saw that from a distance in my head and just kept going anyway. And I just knew that it's like, oh, that's kind of an illusion. Like I'm gonna get past this stage. And it was like that for a few weeks, and then I got past that stage, and it kind of became more neutral. It wasn't like it kind of just became normal, like to learn Chinese, and then I made a whole bunch of cool new SRS formats and messed around with that, and I kind of got better at like how I was gonna SRS Chinese, and now that's been going a lot more smooth. And I tinkered with stuff, figured some stuff out. Was more lenient. Be like, okay, I don't have to just watch Dora. I can watch other shows, and I kind of will just watch whatever I feel like and stuff. And uh, kind of got the hang of it more. And my listening skills got better. Like every little bit of listening skills I got better. That every little bit that my listening skills get better, the whole process gets way easier, thanks to that. Because like it's like really hard to go from 0 to 1 because you're literally when you zero you have zero, but going from 1 to 2 is not that bad. And so now that I'm like I feel like I'm almost at 1, it gets easier and easier to add on. And so I remember one time I was watching Bleach dubbed in Chinese, and then I kind of like just heard a word, and I was like, oh, does that mean like run away, like nigeru? And so then, and I kind of heard the sound, and so I looked it up, and there's this cool app that I have that lets you look up words without knowing the tone. You just put in the pinyin, and so I typed it in, and then I found it, and I was like, oh, cool! Like now I know this word. Like I just made that dictionary entry, and then I'm probably gonna notice it more now. And so then I kind of realized like, oh, I can learn words like just with like I don't really need an SRS. I can just listen, and if you hear something, try to look it up. And at the beginning, that's literally impossible because you literally can't hear the sounds, and it's just a big blob. But after a while, you start to be able to hear the sounds at like the end of sentences, although the middle of the sentences will still be a blob. And so I was doing that for a while, and I'd learned a lot of words just from like randomly looking stuff up while watching, and then I'd start hearing them before, and all the time. Like another thing that really helped is I got like I've been my new setup. I actually have been using this as my immersion pod, hooked up to this all the time, and that makes it really easy. So just like I'll I'll like hear a word that I knew but never had heard for like the first time, like all the time, uh just before I filmed this, I was downstairs making a milkshake, a smoothie. Milkshake sounds more like it's something bad for you, or smoothie I think is good for you. It was good for me, but I remember I heard the word for like neirong, which is naiyo in Japanese, and I learned that like 2 days ago in my SRS, and I'd heard it once before that. That's why I decided to learn it because I heard it and looked it up and found it. But that was the first time hearing it and like knowing, oh yep, there is that word, and then I heard it again a minute later. So it's like stuff like that will happen to me literally all the time. Like I'll hear a word that I haven't heard before, but I knew, or I'll like hear a whole sentence and it'll be pretty cool. And I just had this realization last night or this morning listening to Chinese that it's like my brain has like got to a new level. Like I think I officially got to 1. And I noticed this difference where and I mean it wasn't completely overnight. It was kind of gradual, but it's like to a new level starting today where I kind of realized my brain was figuring out Chinese grammar. And it kind of like there was a few moments even starting from a few weeks back where I was listening to Chinese and I didn't understand any of the words, like what the words meant, but I like knew how they were functioning grammatically. It was really weird, but super cool. As soon as I noticed it, I was like, whoa, that's fucking awesome. Like, it was like, I knew it was like the grammar was like the A-ish B did C to D, or it was like, I just knew like how the parts of speech were functioning. And there were a few other times where I'd like hear a longer sentence and like actually be able to hear it. Like, and it's extra easy to notice because I listen to the same stuff over and over. So stuff that I like understand it for the first time after hearing it a bunch of other times. And then I just realized like, oh yeah, like my brain can understand this now. And every time it's like, I know this, but I still relearn the lesson. Like, oh yeah, it's really not me who learns the language. Like, it's not your conscious knowledge that allows you to understand it. It's literally like just some deep down unconscious process like decodes the language, and when it figures something out, you become able to understand it. And it's like you are pretty much not part of that process at all. It just happens automatically. But it's just crazy to realize, like, just listening alone, like, you're like, I thought a lot about during these past few weeks, like, Chomsky's, theory about universal grammar. And I was like, man, that just gotta be true, because it really, I can just feel my brain just like learning the grammar of Chinese just by listening to it, and it's not comprehensible at all. So it must to some extent like already be in the brain, and you're just kind of unlocking it by giving it these specific keys to these specific keys holes that you already have. Oh, that's really what it felt like. I could just really, because I could feel my brain figuring out the grammar, and then it kind of like, so that was happening for a while where I could tell that, oh man, I understand more. My brain has like a more fundamental grasp of Chinese grammar than it did before. And even my SRFs would get easier. It'd be like, oh, I didn't have to like consciously think about what parts of speech everything was. It was just be like, oh, I can read it and kind of just get it. Uh, and then ever since like last night when I was watching SpongeBob right before bed, and like this morning when I was just listening to something while going to the bathroom, and I was like understanding it to like a new level. And it kind of just like a lot of things just kind of clicked, and I think I just kind of, I mean, a lot of times progress seems to come in kind of chunks, or at least you notice it in chunks. And I just realized, like, oh, I'm at this next chunk now, and now it's infinitely easier. Like, for a while, I didn't watch any Dora for like 3 weeks because I got bored of it. And then I went back a few days ago and watched an episode of Dora, and I understood so much more. It was crazy. Because Dora is like the easiest, most comprehensible input you can get. And so for a while, I was just watching anime like Bleach and uh, like man, what else? Like and SpongeBob and some other shows. I can't even. I'm going to hate and blank right now. A few other, mostly anime, and they're a lot harder than Dora. But so once so now that I kind of got used to those, it was hard to see my progress. But then I went back and watched an episode of Dora, but I understood so much, like so many full sentences. And I was able to learn so much like from the full sentences that uh, it really made me realize like holy shit, my listening skills have got way better, and all I've been doing is listening, and not even that much, like a few hours a day, and then a little bit of SRSing. But it just made me realize like, I mean, part of it is that Chinese is so easy, but also it's like, man, learning a language is really easy. You just have to like understand the process, and on not just a conscious level, but you have to really get that the work you put in now like will lead to something in the future, and that creates so much motivation. Like, just one other place that I saw that was like I have this little training regimen where every morning I will, like, because I'm doing Taiwanese Mandarin, and so I'm going through Bopo Mopfo, and I have this book right here that it has, it's Chinese, but it has like Furigana and Bopo Mofo, and every day I'll just set the timer for 10 minutes and just read the sounds. It's just a practice reading Bopo Mofo, and I'm sure my pronunciation sucks ass, and I don't know what it means, and I know like the tone rules, how they change and stuff, but I noticed myself getting so much faster and so much more effortless, and I kind of just noticed at one point it's like, whoa, I can read this without using my conscious mind, like 现在里面没人的福尔摩斯摇摇. It's like the two characters will combine in like unique ways, but the way of combining my brain, it's like I already became unconscious. And so just seeing that, how like literally every day, even though I only do it for 10 minutes, I'm a little bit better. And then also for 10 minutes, I take a picture of one page and I open it up on my computer, and then I just type it out to practice typing Bopomofo, because I have the little stickers on my keyboard. Because you have to just, it's you don't do it through the Roman letters, so you have to just completely blindly memorize where all the characters are. But I get better at that every day too, and now I don't have to look. I can like blind type, and I'm still slow at it, but more and more when I just realize like, oh, my fingers know where to go, and I'm just seeing that process happen, and then and I just realize like, oh shit, I am getting better every day. It's so motivating to continue. And also the other last thing I do for 10 minutes a day is these tone drills where I just listen to, there's like this website where it plays you like a two kanji compound in Chinese, and then you just type in what tone it is, and I get better every day of that too. And now I'm almost perfect, because for a while I couldn't hear the difference between the third tone and the second tone when it was in the second position, but it's becoming more and more obvious. And so just to see like, oh yeah, if you practice, you get better. And it's not you that gets better. It's just like you practice and your brain figures it out for you. And of course, now that when you see your progress, you feel so motivated to continue. And I was like, oh man, because it's like when I listen to Chinese now and I see that my listening abilities have got so much better, and I realize like, oh man, so if I do like twice as much listening as I have up till now, and I'm already this good, like I'm gonna get even better. And you just realize that, and you naturally become motivated. It's the only time you feel unmotivated is when you feel like you're not confident that what you're doing is actually going to make you get better. When you know that it's like, yeah, if I just do this, I'm going to get better, then you have all the motivation in the world to do it if you want it. And so I kind of just realized that it's like it all comes down to seeing your progress. And and I mean, I think I'm already over the hump. Like I wouldn't say I'm officially at one, but because I feel like I was just listening to a video of Luca yesterday, and he was talking about how the goal of language learning at the beginning is to build a language core, and that's when I think basically what he meant by that is like it has its own room in your mind. Like I said before, it's like his way of saying that. Like it's completely separate, its own little world, and even if you don't touch the language for a while, it will still be there. It's like kind of built into your brain now. So I still feel like until I get to that point, yudan dekinai, like I gotta still be vigilant. But and that well maybe that'll take like 6 months. But once I get to that point, then it's gonna be a breeze. It's gonna be all downhill, and I'm gonna be able to improve while still improving at Japanese at the same time. Uh, and also one other, I guess the last thing I'm going to talk about is that Chinese seems like it was made to help you get better at Japanese. Like there's a few things. Like first of all, pitch accent, it's going to help a lot because you're just training yourself to listen to the subtle differences in how pitch relates to lexical meaning. It's just like a muscle in your head, and you're training it on turbo with Chinese. So of course it's going to help you with pitch accent when you go back to Japanese. And also, Chinese is like the most efficient language in the world. So much is implied. Like, just one example is like if you want to say my parents, you would say like in Japanese you would be like watashi no ryoshin or something. You gotta say watashi no, but in Chinese you just say like wo baba, my dad. You just say like me dad, and there's so many other things where it's just like it's inferred from context what they're talking about. It's like so it's like so condensed and like yeah dense of a language, and so it kind of forces your like reading between the lines abilities, like your ability to infer from like them only saying a little bit is going to get trained a lot as well, and that's going to help a lot in Japanese. Uh, because I feel like that's still something I'm kind of weak in but can improve at is like because you don't really need it in Japanese because they say enough, but they still infer a lot, and so I feel like that's really going to help me train that ability, and also just like like kanji compound comprehending ability. Like you realize now, like oh man, so much of Japanese is Chinese, and like I see now, like classical Japanese was even more closer to Chinese, and so when I go back to study classical Japanese again, it's going to be so much easier now because my brain's gonna have all these new structures in it that are really gonna help. Plus, I heard Kaufman talking about this concept of or this idea how it's like in order to improve a lot, what you're doing has to be novel to your brain. And so if you like take a break from a language just for a little bit and come back, you'll be like re-stimulated and it'll seem like more fresh and it might actually improve more. And so I think once I get this language core, then I'll be able to get like a going back and forth between Japanese and Chinese thing going, and I might be able to really improve at both pretty rapidly because the taking away from Japanese might actually like give it an extra punch when I come back. Plus, I really think they do complement each other in a way, as long as you can avoid keeping them confused or getting them confused. But yeah, it seems pretty awesome, and I love the idea of imagining myself knowing Chinese, like being trilingual. That like gets me really motivated. I just love that idea that I'm gonna be able to read books in three languages, and like under like I mean the idea of being able to understand Chinese where it's all just kanji, I always think is super cool. And just the act of getting better is so fun. Like always noticing new things, noticing new things, seeing your brain upgrade itself automatically, and then how now every single moment of the day can be productive. You know, nothing goes to waste. You can just take a walk and listen to Chinese, and you know you're getting better. It, like makes your life so fun. It's so awesome. I just really like have so many times where I feel like, damn, this works. Like everything I'm saying on my YouTube channel, dude, it's fucking works. I want to just tell the world that. But I also don't want to announce that I'm learning Chinese really yet, because I still might quit. Who knows how far I'll go with it. But I definitely am already farther than I've ever been before. And like I said, I think before I just wasn't able to make it. It's like whenever you do anything new, you have an initial honeymoon period, and then you slope to the opposite extreme before it levels out. And I think before I just got stuck in the slope every time and quit. But I'm already past that now. Meditating made like what I learned through meditating made that pretty easy. So yeah, so that's it. Maybe check back in the next while when I make level up a few more times and I have some more insight. Peace out.